They were the words that marked the birth of a new nation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
These fateful words mark the start of the American War of Independence. By its end, a new nation was born and the seeds for another new nation were planted. Since the early 17th century, America was Britain's largest penal colony, used to offload their burgeoning convict population in a practice called transportation. When Britain lost the 13 American colonies in the American Revolution, they also lost this resource as the newly formed United States of America turned away British transportation ships. The result was a vast overcrowding of the British jails and a sharply increasing crime rate across Britain. A solution needed to be found. By 1787, a fleet of 11 ships, called the First Fleet, was assembled with over 750 convicts ready to set sail and establish Britain's first colony in Australia. 8 long months later, the First Fleet arrived in Australia, and Sydney Town was born. For the next 65 years, Australia served as Britain's primary penal colony in the world. As both the transportation network and population of Sydney expanded, so did the need for additional settlements, especially for repeat offenders. In 1804, a new colony named Hobart Town was established on an island called Van Diemen's Land. Within 30 years, Van Diemen's Land became the most feared penal colony in the British Empire. In 1856, after transportation was outlawed, and in an effort to escape its dark past, the name Van Diemen's Land was changed to the name we know it by today, Tasmania. First discovered by Dutch explorer Abel Tasman in 1642, Tasmania still retains much of its untamed wilderness that existed when it was first discovered. It's a land of rugged coastlines, coursing rivers, snow-capped peaks, verdant valleys, and rich highland lakes. It's home to one of the greatest temperate rainforests in the world, with places that are still impenetrable today. It's the home of the world's largest carnivorous marsupial, with a scream so terrifying and vicious that early explorers believed the devil himself was walking the earth. And yet, with this backdrop of cruelty, suffering, untamed brutal wilderness, and lonely isolation, comes one of the most delicate, beautiful, and colorful mineral specimens in the world, a lead chromate mineral known as Crocoite.
Going back to the early history of the area, I suppose, the early history of mining in the area started back in the 1870s when they discovered the Mount Bishop tin mine, which at the stage was the biggest and richest tin mine in the world. And that brought thousands of prospectors to Tasmania from around the world coming looking for another tin mine, of course. But amongst those tin miners, a lot of people were looking for silver, lead and zinc. And some of those mines found in that area, they moved to the south and to the west after leaving the Mount Bishop mine, and they found the Magnet mine, which is quite a famous silver lead mine that produced a little bit of Crocoite. It wasn't the first find of Crocoite there. They think the Hazelwood mine was probably the first rich silver lead mine they found in that sort of area. That was about 1886 they found that, and that was actually the first find of Crocoite in Tasmania at that time. At the time I didn't know what it was. They were calling this red lead, and they sort of said it's some red lead mineral, and it occurred with cerussite and other lead minerals, so I thought that was interesting. But after that, they moved down the coast, basically moved to the south. They basically worked their way along the coast because the country was pretty well impenetrable. The scrub was very hard to find, so they used to go along the coast, work their way up and down the rivers. Eventually they came to Zeehan in the early 1880s, and they started finding quite a lot of little silver lead mines around, and most of them didn't have much in the way of secondary minerals, but they worked their way up the creeks, and they came up to Comet Creek. And I think it was Tom Maestries in about 1890 97 or thereabouts that he found silver lead in the Comet Creek there, which was an interesting occurrence which turned into the Comet, two different mines, the Comet and the Maestries mines that opened up, and they were very rich silver lead mines in the Dundas area, what became the Dundas township, which flourished for only about 10 years or so. The mine flourished, and it was a big town for a while. Then it died, and pretty well nothing left now. But during that time, they found a lot of little Crocoite mines there. That was including the Adelaide Mine, the Rediscovering Mine, the West Comet Mine. Most mining in this sort of area collapsed around about 1910s, 1920s. Pretty well most of the lead zinc mines around Zeehan had run out of easily mineable ore. There were a few mines which did go on for quite a bit longer, but basically metal prices seemed to drop about then, around about the First World War time. I don't know, there were issues, I suppose, a lot of the lead and zinc went to Germany. I think there were problems with the markets there with the war on and things, they couldn't sell the ore, so it all basically fizzled out. A lot of people just walked away from a lot of these mines, even though some of the mines still had economic ore. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't economic to mine it, so a lot of people went off to the war, didn't come back, and the mines just disappeared. I suppose it's really only about the 1950s, 60s that people started looking at some of these mines again and coming back and looking at it, and then there's a few people started to realise, there's actually some interesting minerals there, and it's back... It was really about 1960 odd, I think, that people started to, look at Crocoite again seriously, and people started to mine Crocoite for specimens. And that's when Frank Mihalowicz came into the Adelaide Mine. He was one of the first guys to really do it professionally. As Frank started to get too old for this, he decided, he really needed to sell this off, and then it's been on the market for quite some time, and Frank wanted a reasonable amount of money for it, of course, which is not unfair for somewhere that's produced such a fantastic amount of Crocoite. And Adam came along with a group of other people, formed a consortium, came up with the money and managed to purchase it off of Frank there. So, it would have only been a couple of years before his death, I suppose, really. So, yes. So luckily they kept the mine in Tasmanian hands and had local people there who knew what they were doing, knew the country, and knew how to mine the Crocoite.
What I'm doing, I'm developing a bit of a tunnel, small as you can see, very tight and compact, and it's just underlying another tunnel above us where it leads into the crystal cave that we just recently found. And because the cave's sloping down at that sort of an angle, maybe even a bit steeper here and there, trying to get under it so we can extract, at least have a better idea of what's in front of us, because it's pretty hard to see what's around the corner in the cave. We think it's bigger than it is, and I'm fairly sure it is. This is one way of telling if we get through here, and I'm very, very close, I feel, to breaking through into the cave. Probably only a metre or two away, probably even less. And I'm hoping to break through today. And maybe we can get some footage of that at that point. So what it is, just following the same water course that the cave's in, only we're just a bit below it. Along the way, we found this, which is just another branch off the same water course that the cave's in. It's just a bit of a bonus. It's actually more than just a bit of a bonus. We would be very excited about this alone, let alone the cave. We'd been doing a lot of work above where the cave is, and we'd always wanted to drive in along there, and it was getting hard to remove the dirt anyway. And we found at the opening where we go up, there was some interesting massive pyrolusite stuff going on there, just off on the hanging wall side of the main watercourse that we usually follow. Turned out there was some interesting pockets, a good metre in off there, and we thought, let's follow the watercourse down at this level and see where that tracks. And so Adam and I both were working it off and on, and it wasn't exciting to begin with, but there was always a good sign, and so we just kept at it a bit, weren't rushing into it or anything, and then one day Adam says, you should go in and see what it's like in there now. Because I'd been digging all the dirt out, and Adam was chewing away at the walls and at the face, and I was getting all the dirt out, and so I hadn't seen exactly what he was finding, but then he said, come out one day, better go and have a look what's in front of us, and it was amazing. More amazing the more we opened it up. It just got bigger and better, and as we found out in the last few days, the more because we had to extract a bit out that, the deeper it goes, the brighter and bigger things seem to be getting. So we're very excited about getting to that, I think, 20 feet in the distance from the entrance of the cave as it is now. May have to come in from below at another level at some point, but we'll know after I get through here, I guess, whether we need to actually go that next step of going down below and deeper, because it might go, I don't know, we just don't know how far it's going to go yet. All the best pockets have been found along these sort of water courses that you see in the rocks, which is just in the breccia zone. It's another freak fault in a fault zone, if you like. That's what I like to call it. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. Well, given that there was ore bodies in the area and the water course there would have brought the minerals down through this system, which is just a compact thing, but every now and again, water being what it is, will create a space, and I believe that's what you ended up with, a huge space above us that goes down, and the crystals found it a very good place to grow.
Lead chromate or crocoite is fairly insoluble chemically, you know, and the soils around Dundas are very acid. There's a lot of humus, a lot of rain, and the soils get very acidic, so they dissolve most of the cerussite and other lead minerals. You know, pyromorphite can be quite soluble too, usually. Mm-hmm. But there's an unusual geological situation there at Dundas, in that there's a lot of chromium in the rocks. So we've got these serpentinite rocks full of chromite, and when they break down, they start to release chromium, and so the waters there are quite rich in chromium. So when the lead is oxidised from the galena, the lead and the chromium come together in a very strange, unusual geological situation, forming this lead chromate. It's fairly rare worldwide, you know. A number of places in the world you can find it, but usually only in tiny amounts. But in Dundas, there just seems to have been a lot of both chromium and lead, and so it's formed these unusually rich deposits of crocoite there.
From what I can understand, it's not actually the minerals being together that is rare, as in it occurs in several places around the world where you can get chromium and lead-rich solutions together, but it's very, very few of those that actually have crocoite. I believe this is due to the fact that the conditions that are required are the rare thing, and that, as I understand it, has something to do with the pH of the solution. And it's been explained to me that having lots of manganese present in the solution alters the pH sufficiently that the lead and chromium can actually bond together. And as I say, that is the rare thing, not the actual lead and chromium being together in solution together. Yes, and as a result of high rainfall here, we have abundant crocoite. Unlike in most mines where they want to be able to take large equipment in and out, and they need to make the tunnels big and wide, they use explosives and dynamite to break the ground and actually make the tunnel the dimensions they need. We are actually working within the structure. We use no explosives, and as a result, we're only taking out the soft bit, which is between the hard layers. And the main reasons I wanted this film made, to me, I have not seen a pocket of this scale before in my life, and I know that 99.9% of people would probably not have seen a pocket of this scale in their life. It's one of the miracles of Mother Nature, I suppose, so it's nice to be able to show it to other people who are interested in it. The way it's developing, we may yet have better views to come, and again, hopefully, if we do, we'll be able to add them to this DVD, or it'll be DVD part 2.
Right on.